and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit, live here from E3 2012 in Los Angeles. Yes, and we do have this cat and that Outlander with a triple barrel gun. Yes, you are not hallucinating. That is not an artifact on the screen. And also joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Max Schaefer from Runic Games. Welcome to the show.
Greetings, everybody. Happy to be here.
Oh, yes, we've had quite a lot of talk from you in the past on this. We did a nice, long session over at Gamescom.
Yeah, we just sort of rambled and played for a long time there, didn't we?
That we did, that we did. This time I've taken the reins away from you, mostly because I'm selfish.
Yes.
And
it's
you may
good judgment. Believe me, it's good judgment.
Yep, and those of you who've played the beta know that, of course, single-player and LAN were disabled for the purpose of the beta. This version actually does not, so we're going to...
They were not merely decorative buttons. They actually were hooked to code.
Which is wonderful. Always nice to see that you weren't just faking it to ride on the publicity of such a thing.
That's what we want people to think.
Brand new features, which are, of course, extremely difficult to implement, as you might imagine. But we'll be loading into the game with a fairly high-level character here. It's around the same thing that you've really seen from the beta. This gun is actually quite silly. That's one of... Ooh. Now, why on earth would you design something like that? Oh, yes, that's right, because it's fun.
Yes.
Now, so what progress has been made? We've played the beta. We've seen how it plays well.
Yes.
Needless to say, a lot of positive feedback on this, even around the launch of Diablo, which we will be talking about in great detail, no doubt. But I want to know what's left to tighten up in the game. What are you currently focusing on as you move towards release?
Right, so the beta was Act 1 only, and that's basically roughly 1/3 of the game. So we wanted to make sure that the rest of the game has the same level of polish that the first third has. So we're going through every boss battle and tuning it, making sure they're unique and different from previous ones. And we're also going and you know, when we were running the beta, everyone is intensely sensitive to criticism in our office, so people were pouring through the forums all the time, finding out what people were saying, and fixing everything that they could possibly fix.
Absolutely.
Yes, so this is the beta build here, so it doesn't reflect some of the changes we've made, but we've done a little overhaul on the skill system and added basically tiers to the skills. So instead of just merely getting another couple percentage resistance to ice or whatever by putting another point into a skill, at a couple times during the course of the life of the skill, you'll put a point in and jump up a tier, and it'll add an entirely new attribute to the skill. And it'll either be to chain lightning out and kill monsters around you, or something that is visible and palpable and makes it worthwhile to keep putting points in skills.
Well, you just fixed the biggest problem I actually had with the game.
I'm very happy to hear that.
If I'm totally honest. Yeah, that was the one thing I did make the comment on was, well, the skill system is a smidge archaic in places, and adding a point is nice, knowing that it only adds like a % extra damage or whatever. That's not so fun.
We did that just for you, by the way.
Well, thank you. Very much appreciated.
Our pleasure.
You guys are so receptive to feedback.
Our
That
pleasure.
is absolutely wonderful. Now, the elephant in the room, the big, always-on elephant in the room, of course, goes by the name of Diablo 3 with a very successful launch. One
Always online, that is. By the way.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah. Well, it's done pretty well for itself. But it's been mired in controversy, which doesn't seem to have stopped its selling at all. But the question is, how does that affect you at this stage? How does it affect Runic? Has it done anything in terms of your development cycle? Has it affected any changes in terms of game mechanics or the way that you approach the game?
Not really in game mechanics or the way we approach the game. Obviously, we're playing the heck out of it, so I would say there would probably be just a minorest of delays associated with that, but that's to be expected.
Of course.
But overall, we think that it's a very positive effect on us because it's good. I think it's brought millions of new people into enjoying action RPGs. You know, they're doing TV commercials on ESPN and things that we couldn't possibly dream about here at Runic Games. And those people subsequently become aware of Torchlight just by osmosis and reading comparisons and that sort of thing. So we really feel like it's good for us, it's good for the industry, and we welcome Diablo 3's presence.
Now, the question is, if you happen to be at the helm of Diablo 3, is there one change that you would make, aside from the obvious, hey, LAN, so on and so forth, like from a game mechanic perspective, even a setting perspective, aesthetic?
You know, I think their art is beautiful, and I don't know that I would be too vociferous about changing that. There are little details here and there. I prefer actually making a specific individual build with my character, so I like to be able to put points in skills. And I like to be able to put points in stats so that my guy is... I'm not really a min-maxer like some people are, and I like to make strange builds like ranged berserkers and this sort of thing, just because you can. And so I like to be a little... like there to be a little more individuality in your character development. Other things that I would change, I would put the pentagrams and crosses back in the game because they are part of the story and part of the lore, so I disagreed with that, but that's a minor complaint because it's a beautiful game, the art is wonderful, and I'm enjoying playing it a lot. So, I think they did a wonderful job. I'm glad that they did it and I didn't have to do it. because it's impossible to meet the weight of expectations after 10 years.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely true. It's a little bit of a scary thing. At least most people do seem to be enjoying it at the moment.
So, I mean, while I would do a couple things differently, I don't want to seem like I'm critical, but they deserve the success they're getting with it, and my congratulations for that.
Of course. So here's a nice opportunity to do exactly the opposite of criticize and say, what is the thing from Diablo 3 that you have been most impressed with thus far?
You know what I like a lot about it, aside from it's just slick as grease, you know, the art is so beautiful. I sometimes just pause and look at the river, is the way that they tell the story. You know, I feel like I'm interested and compelled to listen to them when they're telling me something that involves the story of what's going on, and I like the method that they did it, and it didn't seem tacked on. I will admit that in previous Diablo incarnations, the story was entirely tacked on after the game was complete, and it, you know, obviously it felt that way, and I think that they've done a really good job of integrating that into the core gameplay mechanics that we had. Fantastic.
So let's get back to Torchlight 2, shall we? The game that I am so enjoying here. And, you know, we could miss the next few appointments. I could just sit here playing this, because I never got the chance to quite get this far in the beta. But I want to talk a little bit about replayability, because what Diablo 3 has done is take the idea of difficulty and twisted things around a little bit in making it so that difficulty is not a choice.
Right.
It is actually a form of linear progression. Normal is essentially a tutorial, then can go into Nightmare, Hell, and Inferno. Now, this is not what Torchlight 2 is currently doing, and some people have brought up the point that this may affect the replayability of Torchlight 2 in a negative fashion. How would you answer that?
Well, I almost think it's the opposite, because you can start into the game where you should be, and you're not going to get bored by playing a game that's too easy. And for most people, normal is a fairly easy difficulty mode in the game. And, you know, people who have played a lot of Diablo, and we're going to have a lot of customers who have just finished Diablo 3 on Inferno, don't need to start at the very beginning to learn a tutorial of how to play Torchlight. Yeah. So it's good for us that I think that people can pick right off the bat and launch in and have fun from the first 10 minutes they're playing. Now, what we've done to increase the longevity, though, is New Game Plus, basically. So you will finish the game and be able to start again anew at the beginning of the game, but find new progressive items with appropriate monster difficulty, and so you can keep leveling up while still finding cool and better and ever more spectacular items.
Okay. Now, modding-wise, what new features are you actually putting in to make modding easier? It was a good scene in Torchlight, certainly, and I know you guys are actively supporting it here. The question is how?
Yes, okay, so we're releasing the development tools again. We've gotten another 2 years of development into the development tools, so they are more powerful and easier to use than they were before. One example is that it's very, very easy to do UI mods. One of the complaints with the modding community in Torchlight 1 was that UI mods were pretty much not accessed in the tool, and it was very difficult to do anything with that. Now they're completely exposed in the tool, and you'll be able to change the UI to however you want it to be. And I know a lot of people have their own ideas of what UI should be like and what tweaks there should be. Lots of little things beyond that just make it a lot easier to balance and to make new content. Better, easier animation adding, the scripting system for quests and events is easier. A lot of little tweaks here and there. But the big thing is, you know, now you'll be able to share your mods with people while playing in multiplayer. And it's you know, a little bit weird in a single-player game to make a mod and tell someone about it and then ask them how they liked it afterwards. And it's much better to be able to play with them and show them the cool stuff that you've made. So we expect there to be a much more vigorous modding community this time around, even though it was fine last time.
Okay. Now, Torchlight 1 was actually a little bit legendary for being one of the best netbook games. It was highly scalable. It actually had a netbook mode. It ran just fine on very, very... That's a King Ice Gel. That's a reference right there. I know that's a reference. Don't try and hide it. Whatever the case, it was known as a netbook game, but you've really ramped up the graphical fidelity this time around. Is it still suitable for netbooks?
It will be suitable for modern netbooks. We haven't done a full suite of testing on the old ones yet to see where we stand. It runs almost the same as Torchlight 1. Okay. So we've made a bunch of enhancements. In doing the Xbox, for example, the Xbox version, we made a bunch of optimizations to the core engine so that now, even though it's multiplayer with lots more on screen and higher poly artwork, it still runs smooth as silk on old machines. We're playing on nice, slick new Alienware machines here, but they're hardly high-end. I think they're below $1,000 to buy one of these, and you'd be hard-pressed to get it to slow down at all.
That's a nice little plug there for anyway. They are pretty. You know, if I wanted something that looked like an Xbox 360 but cost 5 times as much, then I'd probably be.
This is your machine.
Exactly. Yeah. That they know their market without question. It is a little bit nicer to carry around than our Cosmos 2, though. I've got to say. Oh, hello, hulking slasher. There we go. Now, aside from being completely distracted by the fact that this game is ridiculous fun, you guys have changed your release date around just a little bit. In fact, there was a little bit of a controversial statement that you did make, which has no doubt been taken completely out of context, in that you wanted to launch quite close to Diablo 3. Have you revised that? What's your current estimate?
That was actually out of context. What I wanted to say is that ideally we wouldn't be within 30 days. So people took that to mean that we want to be within 30 days, at 30 days around Diablo.
Okay.
And the point was that if we launched the same week as they launched, we were kind of going to get buried in the noise.
Of course.
And we've always thought that we're going to have to, regardless if we come right before Diablo 3 or right after Diablo 3, the vast bulk of our sales cycle will be alongside Diablo 3. So we're better served, and our players are better served by us just making it as good as possible and competing head-to-head without regard to who came first. Now, as it turns out, they've done millions and millions of sales already, so they've gotten a little bit of a head start on us.
Just a bit.
But from the beginning, we just want to make the best game we can, and when it's done, it's done, and wherever that falls, as long as it's not within 30 days of Diablo 3, that's when we'll release. And,
Fantastic.
And it's getting closer. Right now, my gut feeling is that it's looking like late July, early August. But we're going to wake up one day and the final boss battle will have been tuned, and we'll look at each other and say, why aren't we releasing now? And that'll be it.
Well, this is a bit stressful. There we go. Let's deal with that. Fantastic. Get.
Uh-oh.
Stop biting me. Thank you.
Take a potion.
Appreciate
there
it.
you go.
That's been done. All right. So we did see a rather interesting phenomenon. That was around the launch of Diablo 3. The publicly available top sales charts for Steam did indicate a significant sales spike in pre-orders for Torchlight 2.
Yes.
How significant was that spike, and what exactly would you attribute it to?
So it went up about 40% right then, and it stayed at that level. And I attribute that, again, to just the publicity brought to the genre and the fact that I think that the initial struggles they had with their launch helped, but also the fact that it's a good game at its core helped, because now people who are playing Diablo 3 and liking it are saying, what else is out there and what else can I do that's like this. So I attribute it just to the millions and millions of people who Blizzard has kindly brought into our genre and into our midst.
Now that is one hell of a belt.
Yes, it is.
Ooh, damn it! I need levels of vitality.
There was quite a bit of anxiety in our company and our partners about what would happen when Diablo 3 came out, and I was very relieved to see that the prediction that it would help us was what came true.
It certainly seemed to.
Yep.
Now, there are a couple more games actually entering the genre. I'd just like to get your brief thoughts on those. The first being Grim Dawn by the original developers of Titan Quest. Have you had a chance to have a look at that?
I have had a look at it. I haven't had a chance to play it at all, and I'm dying to, because what I've seen looks really cool.
Yeah, Titan Quest was actually a ton of fun. I really did enjoy that very much. And the other one, which is certainly available to play, free to play specifically, is Path of Exile. Path of Exile,
first of all, I like those guys. We've gone out drinking. And I think that we're forming a nice bracket around Diablo, because they are even grittier and darker in some ways than Diablo is.
Yeah.
And we're kind of on the other side. We're a little more lighthearted and cartoony than they are. So I think we're making we got a nice spectrum of styles now that action RPG fans can pick from. And they're a tiny little company, and this is their first foray into this sort of gaming, and I think they deserve a lot of credit for it being a very credible effort.
They certainly seem to have done pretty well with it. I've enjoyed it very much so far. And yeah, Grimdark is one way I would put it. That game's actually depressing in many areas. You get off the boat, of course, the boat is destroyed, and the first thing you see are drowned people that then get up and try and kill you, which is incredibly sad, honestly. I'll go with the Torchlight approach for the moment. I'm too old for that kind of nonsense.
Well, the way we see it is that this style of game is sort of a comedy inherently anyway. I mean, even Diablo was. It's like, why are there swarms of bees carrying chainmail around?
Yeah.
So why not just have fun with it and not be so serious about it all the time?
It's certainly a fair point. The question is, what comes next after Torchlight 2? Needless to say, you haven't announced anything, but is there anything that you would like to do, even if it's just pie in the sky and will never actually happen?
Well, this is the problem, is that there's too many things that we would like to do. we're going to do a Mac version. So once we finish this, we'll do the Mac version. We'll do all the language translations. We'll fix whatever error 37 we have, and then we'll just get a sense of what the world looks like. Whether people are clamoring for a console version, do they just want more Torchlight 2, and we'll get to work on an expansion? Do they want tablet stuff? You know, I think it would make a great tablet game. But at the same time, we also don't want to be the people that only ever do Torchlight in our careers.
Yeah.
So at some point, we're going to take a little break and do something else, and you know, try our hand at another genre.
Yeah. You guys did mention an MMO back in the day. I assume that's on the back burner at present?
A little bit on the back burner, only because an MMO is such a long-term commitment. And, you know, like I said, we have a lot of ideas and a lot of things we want to do. And, you know, in the 9 years that it would take to do an MMO and service it appropriately, you know, I'm going to get old. So we have to be pretty serious in the company about a kind of a unanimous decision that this is what we want to do, because it's such a long-term commitment. So it's slightly on the back burner right now. But having said that, we've got great ideas for a Torchlight MMO. So I do want to see it happen eventually.
What do you think is next for the action RPG genre when it comes to hack and slash? Where do you go from here? Torchlight does innovate in various places, so does Diablo as well. But it just seems like an inherently limiting kind of genre.
Well, I think that we can get different, different themes. I think that we're pretty wide open for a sci-fi style action RPG like this. You know, and then there isn't just fantasy. You know, I mean, there's lots of things that you can do with it. So, as we see with the Path of Exile, there's different business models to explore with it, with trying the free-to-play route and seeing where that goes. I think that someone will probably do a proper, at least pseudo MMO in this style, where instead of a party of 4 to 6, that you'll at least have hub towns where there's hundreds of people running around and maybe a lot of instancing from there. I think there's a lot left to do with it.
I'm having to focus just a little bit here. Things are getting rather stressful.
We have plunged you into a fairly advanced part of the demo here.
Yeah, thankfully I did play quite a lot of the beta. I was trying to play Diablo, but Diablo refused to let me play it, so it was a bit of a bind.
Yep. There were a few other people trying at the same time you were, apparently.
Indeed they were, sadly, but there we go. Why did I stand in that? I'm such a moron. Oh, well, never mind. That is an unfortunate death. I can resurrect to this
No
area.
reason to be saving your gold, so...
Not exactly, no. I'm going to ruin Wanda's character for her, and I'll feel mildly guilty about that.
That's all right. In a couple hours, I'm going to erase these hold machines anyway. So.
Indeed. Well, Chillhoof is about to go down. That is going to happen. What is the loot?
Very good.
More to the point, what's in that? That's what we want to know. No one's even listening to what we're saying. They just want to know what's going to be in the loot chest.
Exactly.
Hello.
Oh.
Yes.
Hello.
My favorite type of weapon. That's what I'm talking about. Let's have a look-see. I want it.
Yeah,
I want to keep that.
It looks like it.
I want to put it on a USB drive and take it home with me, as much as I wish that I could, but I cannot. And that is quite the shotgun. Well, Max, thank you very much for talking to us today. As always, it has been a pleasure. Looking forward to seeing the eventual release of Torchlight 2, which should be sooner rather than later.
Definitely.
Folks, remember to pre-order. You can do so. You'd be silly not to. You will get 4 copies for $60. You will also get copies of the original Torchlight, if I recall correctly, on Steam. So a little bit of a bargain if you're looking to fill your cravings. I would strongly suggest that you do. Thanks to Max, thanks to Runic, and we will see you next time.